All right, everybody, we have probably one of the most exciting interviews I've ever had in my life. Sitting with me here is Ed Wheatley, the president of the St. Louis Browns Historical Society and Fan Club. I get a little jittery. I don't ever get jittery. I don't ever get jittery. I'm a little, maybe I am. I don't know. I tell you, a lot of people do know my background with regard to my love and passion for baseball, obviously the Cardinal Cowboy thing. And I ran into you, oh gosh, when was that? That was
last fall.
Last fall at the St. Louis Sports
Hall of Fame induction dinner, yes.
Yes. And Shelly Flood said, "You've been hanging out with us here, Cowboy." A friend of mine knew her, invited me. I was in the suite. She got to know me. She looked at the back of my jersey and she said, "You're with that charity? We should be friends," kind of thing. She said, "Okay, let's go." And she goes, "Why don't you come to this event?" I showed up there and I was so fortunate to meet you. And I was like, Ed, the St. Louis Browns? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's legendary. I mean, I know so much. I was going to call my mom today and say, "Mom, I know you're not good with this, but go downstairs, get a picture of Dad's picture of Eddie Goodell."
Eddie Goodell.
I mean, the history there is so incredible.
Well, it is. I mean,
so we'll jump into that right here.
And it is. It's been 70 seasons since the Browns last played, but the love of the Browns is amazing. I mean, you know, what we have here in St. Louis, where we have like 700 active fan club members. We'll hold our annual reunion dinner every year. Over 400 people attend. You know, we've written books on the Browns to keep this stimulated. They've made into 2 PBS network movies. I've taken it up to the Cooperstown Hall of Fame. The 2 films have been selected in different years into the Hall of Fame's annual film festival. So I've spoken on the Browns multiple times in Cooperstown. That's where you get the real like heebie-jeebies. I mean, you're like, I'm speaking in the Cathedral of Baseball. It's like a Catholic speaking in St. Peter's at the Vatican. That's how cool it is to speak in Cooperstown.
Wow, yeah, you're on the stage there at Cooperstown speaking. That is, I mean, those are things, those are places that people dream of. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like, who are these great men? They should be standing here, not me. I just made a movie and wrote some things.
I was going to say, Ed, we got to talk a little bit about your background and what you have done, because it's more than impressive, and I just think it's so cool with what you've been able to bring to our little planet, sharing some of the stuff that a lot of people just understand the impact that it has had, and what the Cardinals, the Browns, and everything that goes on and on.
Well, it's just important. We got to keep history. We can't lose it. We have to learn from it, use it, and build upon it. And there's one thing in St. Louis. Not only are we the best sports town in America, we are the best baseball town in the planet. I mean, you know, it's unbelievable, the love of baseball. We grew up with the likes of this generation, Harry Carey, Jack Buck, you know, then we went to Mike Shannon and all the others, you know, and it's just, you can't forget that. And we learned the game from these guys, so we get into the game unlike any other city, and we remember the past players. Remember the past teams like the Browns and the Negro League Stars. There's just been so much history in this city.
Well, it's an unbelievable background that you bring to the table here. We always we went a little longer that time just to do that's our intro, everybody, and it's because I always take a moment to give a thanks to our sponsors. But I wanted Ed to really kind of clue us in on what we're going to talk about here, because I am passionate about my baseball and how it impacts our little planet, to say the least. And just to even have Ed in our studio is just amazing. But with that, I'm going to put this on our wide angle shot so you can see all of what we got here. We are always highlighting the leaders in the community, but we give a shout out to those who have helped do that, who are leaders. Carroll House Furniture, most people are familiar with. Brooke Dubman has become a pretty good friend of mine, and his sister Amy there. We love what they do because you like nice things, especially when you're talking about in your little castle. Can you guys all see that up there? That is something we love, and for the first time I'm going to put up that for everybody to see on the wall for everybody right there. But that's pretty cool, and we love the support they give us. And with that, we go on to share a little bit more about what we have in with regard to some of the sponsors. And USA Mortgage. Great to have those guys on for what they do to help support us. And it's just great to have people that really kind of believe in the method, the message, and what we're doing. I do have my license as a mortgage officer. I have to disclose that, and it's on the screen there. Something else I added to my mix because I've done so much marketing, so many companies, a lot of them are mortgage companies, and they say, hey, you might as well get paid on some of this stuff if you're going to generate all this, and get your license if we can do that. So that's what we've done, and I've been working with a great organization to do all that. So that's a little bit about what's going on here, but business makes the world go around, and that allows us the resources to bring on people that are influential, like you see here with our guest, Ed Wheatley. So with that, let's put on the screen behind everybody here, behind us on the TV walls. We've got 2 walls, and there they are. So Ed, behind me, or behind both of us, depending what camera we've got going on there, that's the STLBrowns.com.
Yeah, that's our website. That's our intro page as you go in, and we've got clips of actual Browns games, some of the great players, Satchel Paige, you see there in the one. And I mean, there's just so much history with the Browns that's been forgotten. But what we've discovered once we came out with this book in 2017, got picked as the best book published in baseball by several different entities.
It was picked.
Yes.
You said that. It was picked as the best book.
Yes, that's correct.
That is so cool.
And that then led us to these, not 1, but 2 films on the PBS network on the Browns that went on to be Emmy nominated and win. But it was, we've brought this to new generations. We still have a lot of people that, they'll come up to me and say, hey, I was at the 1944 World Series. You want to see my ticket? I was at, Game 5, Game 6. Or want to see my Brownies Brigade card, which was the Browns equivalent of the Knothole Gang. They've been carrying it around in their wallet, and you think the last time they used it was probably 80 years ago. It tells their age, but we're finding all these young generations from all these marketing, if you will, coming out with these books and films. It's like my dad, he was always had a Browns hat, or my grandpa, what was it he always about? I would see Browns pennants or pictures of him at the Browns because, we live in a special town. Up until 1997, there was no interleague play. But here in St. Louis, you got to see the best of all baseball.
That's a great point.
They all came to St. Louis. You got to see the Cardinals one day, and the next day the Yankees and Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, or later on Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio would come. Bob Feller. They were all here regularly every year. And that really brought a love. You may not like the Browns, but heck, I'm going to go see Babe Ruth, right?
Right.
And Ty Cobb. They all played here. And then, the Cardinals, had their greatness. And, it was a great mutual working together. The Cardinals, took off 26, 28, 30, 31, 34, 42, 43, 44, 46. All those pennants before the Browns left. And there's all these stories that intertwine between the Cardinals and the Browns, that the Browns had opportunities to run the Cardinals out of town, and they just always made the wrong decision. And Branch Rickey was a key part in all of that for the Browns and the Cardinals. But there's just many great men. One of the greatest ever to play the game, George Sisler. 15 men in the Hall of Fame that had ties to the Browns. So it's a great love story for a great baseball town.
Well, I mean, you and I, most often, everybody, if anybody's watched our little show here, it's called the Your Little Castle Show because it's all about helping people develop their own little world, their little castle, and all the things that are necessary to do that. So we bring on a lot of businesses that talk about how they contribute to that. But I mean, I got really excited when you said you'd come on the show because baseball is such a rich history in our little country. But the Mecca almost seems like, as I learn more from you, might be right here in St. Louis for a lot of things. I mean, we talked a little bit about this. Like I said, most times I've got a list of things I want to make sure and cover. Ed and I both agreed we were just going to talk.
Yeah.
And see what it is.
But I mean, we are the best baseball town in America. It's identified in other cities. I mean, Bob Costas, who I've worked with a lot, he's been in some of my films. I've got intros where he calls St. Louis the best baseball town in America. And it really is. I mean, you think about it, and we're just not focused on our team. We have opposing teams come in, their players make a great play. St. Louisans stand up and cheer. They recognize baseball and the greatness. We're not throwing bottles at other players or booing them. We recognize what is greatness.
Well, yeah, literally could go on on that vein forever because you become almost, and I don't want to take anything for granted, especially with regard to how baseball does have such an impact on our culture, our country, and the way people kind of, I mean, it literally, we talked a little bit about this last, I mean, Ed is so knowledgeable about this. It's unbelievable. When you really analyze the impact it had on this, if you look at the history of this country.
Correct.
And you go back into post-World War I and II, the United States was not what it is these days, right? The world, the world power, and we were trying to establish ourselves. And baseball literally was like the fabric. They call it America's pastime because you tell us, Ed, from April through October, that was it.
Yeah, baseball ruled the summer. You know, we didn't really have hockey. Doesn't really pick up major national steam until the mid to late '60s. You know, the NBA was coming just in force. But they didn't play all summer like today. Now, with all these levels of playoffs to get to the Stanley Cup, they're going to be playing till the end of June. You know, the NBA is going to be going into the end of June. And then you got the NFL is going to start right up in August. Before, that was all baseball time. But baseball really took care of our country. You know, 1918, baseball stopped the last month because of World War I. But in World War II, it was so important that right after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, people thought, oh my God, in World War I we stopped baseball. I guess are we going to stop baseball here now that we're going to war with Germany and Japan? And Franklin Roosevelt issued what is known as the green light letter, where he gave baseball the green light to continue. And he wanted more night games because he said, look, Americans are going to have to work long, hard hours in support of this war effort. You're going to be working in factories or different things at home to keep this war effort going so we can win. But I want you to come home each night, sit in front of the radio. There's no TVs, remember, in the 1940s. Just relax with your family and listen to the greatness of baseball. And, it was just that thing. But also, I will tell you one of the other things where the greatness of baseball came about. In World War II, up to World War II, there had been a segregated society, and it continued in certain regions of our country. But the war effort was bringing blacks and whites side by side in factories or in the war fronts. But after World War II and Jackie Robinson's integration into baseball, one of the things people forget is, tell me who the third and fourth man were that landed on the moon, walked on the moon.
Great question.
Yeah, and people don't know.
Remember because you remember.
If you want to know who the third and fourth African American were to cross the chalk line, they were St. Louis Browns, Hank Thompson and Willard Brown. The St. Louis Browns were the first team to have two African Americans. And we'll come back to that in a moment. But think about what was happening in the late 50s and 60s. Young kids, all of a sudden, you're reading the sports page and you're seeing blacks and whites together on the field. And then you're getting baseball cards. You take your nickel up and get those 5 cards and that big hunk of hard pink chewing gum.
Chewing gum, right.
You can still smell it when you say it. But,
the white powder on the edge of it.
Yes, it did. You wanted Hank Aaron. You wanted Willie Mays. You wanted Ernie Banks. You started seeing the African American in the lights of a baseball fan. And it really had an impact on bringing some of this together, from the sports pages to the baseball cards. So there's been just so many different things that, and I always talk about, what does baseball do to people, It's like, remember when Pujols last fall? You're in the grocery store. You don't know the guy in front of you. You're waiting in line. Turns around. You think Pujols is going to get one tonight? Or did you see that? Did you see that home run Pujols hits? Or years back, did you see that catch Edman did late out against the Astros? It takes strangers and you become friends because somebody has a smile. You got a Cardinal shirt or something. It brings people together. That's the beauty of baseball.
That is absolutely one of the strongest points I think you can make. And it took me a long time to really understand that, from the perspective of there's so many things in this world that can separate us, divide us. It's almost like a tactic that's used.
Especially in this time now we live in.
Yeah, and it is a tactic. I mean, we don't want to get in a whole political discussion. I would love to help settle some of this, help people realize what we're doing. But sports gives you the opportunity to really come together. And in particular, baseball, obviously, because you're playing 162 games. You got 81 games at home.
Right.
It's just something to do every night. It's the place to go. It's the thing
to turn on.
Get to know, to hang out, and get to see what's going on.
And I give a lot of talks in retirement homes, nursing homes. Just nobody visits them, and I will visit them and talk baseball, different topics, and they all love it. These are people in these nursing homes. They don't have a lot of visitors, and then at night, what do? They watch baseball. They all know baseball because that's what they sit and watch, because that's what they've grown up on. And it's just amazing when they come and talk to you about it.
Well, let me know what next time you do that. I have actually visited at least 2, 3 long-term care facilities, however you want to call it, where they said, "Come on in." These are all Cardinal fans, and they know who the Cardinal Cowboy is. Some of them, and they want to see.
You can come with me. I go 1 or 2 a month.
And that is just, and to me, that's where I'm like, of course, I'll show up. I don't charge for that kind of stuff. Let me know when, because I believe you got to give back to so many people.
That's what
those are the people that literally put that's why we say have respect for your elders. because they've literally gone through all the stuff you're going through, and they made it, right? And you have so much to learn from them.
And this is the one thing you have in common with them, the one thing that makes them happy. There's nothing better than to be in a retirement home. And as I mentioned earlier, a guy come up and say, "Want to see my ticket from the 4 World Series or my Brownie Brigade card? Or I was at the game, Eddie Goodell pinch hit. You want to hear about it?" Sure, I want to hear about it. They pump up. They get this twinkle in their eyes, and they're speaking in front of their peers about this special game, this special moment.
Well, back to like I said, I like to talk about that. Sports is the one unifier. If there's any plug I can give during this show, it is that I am fortunate to have been partnered up with MetaFans. We ought to put some information about that. But my buddy started the thing with another investor, and it's a national thing by now. And MetaFans, go to metafans.com, I believe. But the concept behind that is it gets all the super fans together, and those are the fans that really have a diehard live or die for their teams, and that again helps us all to unite, because you don't go there to say, "Well, I heard you were this way on this issue, and I heard you were that way on that issue." That all disappears.
Right.
We're there because my team is going to win. Now my team might be playing against your team, and then we're going to joke with each other most times. I only had one time where a guy looked at me, he's like, "I'm Cubs forever, and you better leave me alone." It was something along those lines. A little too serious, that might have been. I was like, "Okay, man, I'll be fine." But everybody is generally about, let's talk about how we can share our interests, and baseball is that thing that brings us together, because you can talk about the stats when Stan Musial was playing. And you talked about that before when we were talking on the phone. These kids these days, they don't know who Stan Musial is.
Oh yeah, I do go into, from one of my books, we use school districts across the region have me come in and speak about writing well, teaching kids how to write, and it's just not this moment. It's going to help you in junior high, high school. It'll get you into college, but you're going to really, one of the keys to writing well is in your business career, whatever it may be, whatever field, once you're out of school. And we talk about this to these 4th and 5th graders. And, it's just so important to get them. And, this book is about the people on the left field wall. Who were these are the foundation of this great franchise known as the St. Louis Cardinals. Sure, Dizzy Dean, he played in the 1930s, and you got, Brock and Gibson, they were there in, the 60s and 70s, and Musial, was from 40s to the 60s. But Musial was the greatest Cardinal of them all, without doubt. And that's no disregard for Albert, but, Albert left for 10 years. But what he did in those first 11 years, nobody in baseball has ever done what he has done those 11 years. Not Ruth, not Aaron, not Cobb, none of them put up the stats he did. But they don't know who Stan Musial is when you first bring it up. And that is kind of like a cardinal sin, if you will,
Sure.
And we're there to keep these memories alive.
With that, I'll hold up. This is something I was so honored to be donated to me, or however you want to say that. But a guy saw me and said, "Cardinal Cowboy, we want you to be one of our spokespersons, or I don't know what you call me." But he said, "We want you to wear this thing. We're giving this thing sells for like $200 or $300.
Yeah.
This is an all authentic." But this is Stan Musial's jersey replica that they've made now, and I get to wear this. I've got pants to match it, and I do my thing. And everybody gets to see me wear the full Cardinal outfit for what we do when we go to our Cardinal games. And most people see me. I go to last year I made it to 75 games. I missed 75 or 76. Here we go with my math. It's 81 games,
81
but 2
games.
playoffs, so 83 minus 5.
Yeah.
I made it to 78 games. And so I missed 5 games last year. But when you get to go see and hang out in places where guys like this played, and Albert Pujols and Ozzie Smith.
Oh, yeah.
And I got so many different ways we could start talking about the excitement here on this. With this, I'm going to pull up for everybody some of the pictures that you have, if that's all right. And
it's all very humbling to have the opportunity to be in these situations, you know.
Well, so here we are. I mean, it's amazing, and I do want you to talk a little bit about some of the things you've accomplished, because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to talk about me. Please share a little bit of that, Ed, because it encourages other people, I think, to say, if you just have a passion, you follow it and do something, you'll find something you can do with your life, and you might actually impact a few other people. So
yeah.
You've got some great awards I want you to talk about, things you've accomplished. That's pretty cool. So with that, let's go ahead and scroll this over here. And I did some of these. We picked off the favorite pictures that we liked, and so I'm gonna put them up on the wall on our right, and then I'm gonna launch these to be viewed with the viewer we've got. But right here, as I put these on the wall for everybody to see, tell us what these books are that you've written.
These are 6 books I've written, co-authored the St. Louis Browns, the Story of a Beloved Team, that got picked as the best book published in baseball by several entities in 2017. That then led just to the immediate left of that book were 2 films where PBS came and said, can you do a film on the Browns? Tell this story for the world, and we did. And you know, they both got Emmy nominations, and we got a win out of it. And that led me to really come back to St. Louis is the best baseball town in America. And, you know, we have such a rich history. And when I say best baseball town in America, I'm not talking about major leagues. I'm talking about, you know, the Corey League, the Little Leagues were founded here in 1934 by George Corey, and then were spread to all the other states and other countries by servicemen, occupation troops in World War II in Korea. And then, you know, we had some of the best high school baseball in the country. One high school in particular, Beaumont High School, had more men in the major leagues in the late 40s and the early 50s. And when you have good high school teams, you know, Beaumont was there in North St. Louis in those periods of 40s, 50s. And then it kind of came out, you know, Rittner was a tremendous with Ron Hunt and Jerry Royce out there. They were a powerhouse in the mid suburbs. And we come out to Lafayette, you know, and, you know, with David Freese, Ryan Howard, and there was about 7 or 8 from there. And it just, when you have good high school, you have good American Legion. And St. Louis was a regular starting in 1948 in the American Legion finals. And, you know, we've had many winners coming out of St. Louis. And then, you know, we had some of the best semi-pro baseball in the country, where teams would be comprised of 2 or 3 ex-major leaguers and about a dozen men who made it to throughout the minors, but just couldn't crack the majors, because it was a different time in the 50s and early 60s because of the reserve clause. You couldn't jump to another team if you didn't like it. You were stuck. And, you know, up until the early 1960s, teams like the Brooklyn Dodgers had 26 minor league clubs. The Yankees had 24. Even the lowly Browns had 14. So think about, you signed with the Yankees, and a lot of men signed with the Yankees, and when I was writing that book, they would tell me, I wish I signed with somebody else, I might have made it. But you're blocked, you know, you have 24 teams, that's about 600 new players every year. And then on top of that, you got teams that win 5 World Series in a row. You're going to go beat out DiMaggio or Mantle or Whitey Ford, Elston Howard, Yogi Berra. No. So they got trapped. But they came back to St. Louis and they played in these fantastic semi-pro leagues that, you know, they would get 1,000 or 2,000 people a weekend watching them play. You know, they were probably better than a lot of minor league teams across the country. So we've had this great history here that has then led up to this fantastic following of our two major league teams. And when I say that, I kind of stumble because we've actually had 4 major league teams. There was in 1876 for 2 years, the St. Louis Brown Stockings win the inaugural season of the National League in 1876. They got kicked out.
Let me guess the other 2.
All right. There's 3 actually.
Okay.
3 more. There's 4 in total.
Perfectos?
Well.
Okay.
No, that's not really. But
the Maroons?
The Maroons came in 1884 and played for 2 years.
Okay.
They collapsed due to financial issues. Actually, 31 teams played in the National League between 1876 and 1901, when it was became the new baseball footprint. But so we had the St. Louis Brown Stockings for 2 years in 1876-87, then the Maroons for 2 years in 1884. And the reason the Maroons kind of failed was Chris Von Der Eyck created a team in the American Association that also took the moniker the St. Louis Brown Stockings. And they ran from 1882 to 1891. They were probably the premier team of the American Association. And two things about it was the American Association was a more rough and tumble team. They played on Sundays. They sold alcohol, and
They sold alcohol
and they
at
were
the
cheaper
games?
to get in. Yeah,
Okay.
and so it drew them, and the team was so good, they won multiple championships during that decade, and the American Association and the National League would play a championship, a predecessor to today's World Series, and the St. Louis Brown Stockings are the only team to beat a National League team in that championship during that decade. So the National League finally says, hey, if you can't beat them, let them join. They came, that American Association team by Chris Von Der Eye joined the National League in 1892. And from 1892 to 1898, they played under the moniker the Browns. So, I mean, we've already told the story of three teams, and they all got Browns in their names. It's like a cat with 9 lives. But they changed their name in 1899 to the Perfectos.
Okay.
So, and then the next year they changed their colors of their uniforms to that lovely shade of cardinal red, and forever they have been the St. Louis Cardinals.
The St. Louis Cardinals. And if you look at the history then of the Browns, it's much longer because now they're still in existence technically. Talk about that a little bit. As the Baltimore Orioles. Right?
Yeah, right. Well, so as I said, the Cardinals joined the National League in 1892. The American League was formed in 1901. St. Louis was the 4th largest city in the country. The Cardinals, which came in 1892, they weren't very good. They were really a very bad team during those decades. They went from greatness in the American Association to not so good when they joined the National League. So they were running into trouble. The American League is formed in 1901. There is no St. Louis team in that first year. There's a team up in Milwaukee called the Milwaukee Brewers. So the Warren Harding, the president of the league, moves the Milwaukee Brewers to St. Louis, 4th largest city in America, with the idea he's going to run the Cardinals out. I'm bringing in a team and we're going to make them popular. So starting in 1902, St. Louis had 2 teams, the Cardinals and the Browns.
We're over the time limit for what will air on ABC. So if you're continuing to watch now, you're already into, and I might edit this in. I do all the editing and production myself here, but we go on for as long as we feel necessary. After that, and you can watch the full thing on full video recording interview on YouTube, Facebook, all the places we're going to both put this. I will give Ed a copy of this for his purposes to put wherever he would like, because I think the importance behind baseball, Cardinals, the Browns, and everything that has gone on in this little city, St. Louis, is literally unknown to so many people.
That's correct.
And we need to get that information out there because it creates that sense of pride, allows people to have something to believe in, and it creates a better situation for a city and a town and everything that goes into that. And baseball is at the core of that. Historian Ed Wheatley in studio here with us, sharing with us some of the most exciting stuff that you can ever imagine you will learn about sports and St. Louis and the history that we have here. And we thank him again for doing that and taking the time to spend with us. Stay tuned for more, everybody. Giddy up.